Okay, so Heidi Marshall here. I'm with the Old Evergreen Neighborhood Association. I would like to introduce Katherine Cory. She's the Executive Director for Columbia Springs, and hopefully she has some really fun things that she would like to share for us for this winter and upcoming spring.
I do. Thank you.
Yeah.
I really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. So, like she said, my name is Katherine, and I'm the new Executive Director for Columbia Springs. And it's such a privilege and an honor to work on this site. So first, I'd like to say that I walk the trails by myself often, and it's fine. Sorry, but it's just a beautiful place. The issues that I reached out to Corporal Donaldson on were mostly just to engage so I could get to know him better as a new officer for our area, and talk with him a little bit about how every so often we get somebody who parks in front of the gate in the evening, just wanting to make sure that I knew what to do when that kind of thing happened. We do have cameras, like he said, so occasionally the officers reach out to us and we share video footage with them in case it's relevant. But otherwise, everything is really great. I have a little PowerPoint. Can I share my screen?
Okay, perfect.
Screen. Let's see here in the beginning. Okay. Looks like there's some people in the waiting room if you want to.
Okay, now I have to
date them. Okay, so Columbia Springs is this beautiful little gem of East Vancouver, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it or have driven by it and the historic Vancouver trout hatchery that's part of it. But I thought, just in case, I might go over a little bit of who we are and what our mission is and kind of what we're working on right now. So click here, there we go. So here's how we fit into the Evergreen Highway area in case you haven't had a peek. You'll see in the kind of the middle here, that's where the hatchery is, and, our public parking area that's over here. It's about 100 acres of area that's forested and has a little over 2 miles of walking trails, which are all open at this moment. So our biggest program is our science and nature program. So doing on-site education through the form of field trips, which we haven't been able to do very much of this year in a pandemic kind of world. And then not just summer camp, but camps in general. So we were able to host on average about 7,000 students annually before COVID. And it was a capstone experience for every fifth grader to come to Columbia Springs from the Vancouver area. So roughly 60 schools participate, and we bring as many students as we can to become scientists for the day. These photos on this slide are from some summer and autumn camps that we did successfully through social distancing with minimal students. We did 10 students with 2 educators, and we were able to bring 4 weeks of summer camp and 2 weeks of autumn camp to students in the area. So kids got to come out and be kids with each other and practice being scientists for the day. It was a really wonderful opportunity we were able to do. We also have a Salmon in the Classroom program, and this program is fully funded through Clark Utilities, but we have generally 50 teachers a year, and that's multiple classrooms, because a lot of these tanks that go into these schools are shared through multiple classrooms, so that students can raise coho salmon from fingerlings and also eggs to be released out into various areas around Vancouver.
In their schools?
In their schools.
Wow.
We've been really lucky this year. We had 17 schools that wanted to participate despite COVID. There's actually a school that has a live stream on YouTube, so you can click and watch their fish at any given time. I think this is the last week they'll be doing that. They're going to be released this weekend, but it's been a really fun experience. Teachers have said it brought them a really strong sense of normalcy to be able to continue doing this program despite teaching remotely. Oh, my slides first. That's right. Here's some pictures from kids that have been doing things with that. My favorite is this one in the corner with the kids all staring down the salmon. We try to get them to do a staring contest every time we do fish rearing, and it was sorely missed this season. So the other thing that happens is we have the historic Vancouver trout hatchery on site. So it was built in the 30s. It was a impressive, or still is an impressive hatchery in the state of Washington, raising multiple species of salmon and trout. Currently, we're raising rainbow trout and chum salmon, which is one of the only salmon breeding hatcheries in the state. And then we also have, gosh, I'm trying to think, 100%, I believe, of all the trout that are in battlegrounds, so Klein Line, Lacamas Lake, and Lacamas, or Battleground Lake, and Lacamas and Klein Line Pond all come from the Columbia Springs hatchery. We're still doing volunteering, so right now it looks a little different. We've been doing a lot of virtual things, so people are being able to do some work with us from their homes. And then we're doing socially distanced, pre-mandate, we were doing socially distanced outdoor volunteer events. So invasive species removal, tree planting, and all sorts of really fun things that can still be done in a very safe way outdoors. And then we have this really cool program called Repair Clark County, and it's what I like to think of as a full circle way of stewardship. So we have kids when they're young and we get them inspired to be scientists and they want to be stewards to nature. And then we have these adults that sometimes we get so busy and we forget how to make those connections and do little things that can help us continue to be stewards. And this program allows us to take things that maybe need a little TLC. So maybe you have a lamp where the switch doesn't work, or your bike just, it doesn't quite or switch gears the way it should. We typically do 8 events a year where people can bring in whatever they have that needs something fixed on it. And we have hundreds of volunteer fixers that help fix these things and show you how to fix them yourselves if you want, and then return them to you so you can continue to use these things. Because we've been unable to do events and throughout the community, we usually do them in different kinds of like arenas and centers. We've been doing it on site. We're calling it Repair Goes Remote, which I always think is funny because we're really on site. But we have been letting clients sign up with whatever their items are. They drop them off on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. And then our fixers pick them up a couple of days later so they have time to sit in that science-backed 48 hours to keep things really safe. And then those fixers work on those things for a couple weeks and return them so that things are still happening and being fixed, just in a different way. So because we are experiencing this, very life-changing pandemic for many of us, we're doing the best we can to innovate. So my educators can't bring students on site. So they're doing everything that they can to reach out to teachers, to community centers, to private schools to try and get as many students as we can engaged with us virtually. So we're creating a lot of really neat programming that can be shared either kind of as a live event where we use our computer and share what's happening in the hatchery, or through video that we're doing of things that are happening on site. And this has been a challenge. So one of the things that we're facing is that education programming with field trips is super easy for schools to adapt to. We generally are in their budget, and they pay for their students to come out, to pay for a portion of our educators' time, and also for transportation so kids can come out and just be kids. And with budget crises impacting our schools disproportionately, it's just not there for the following year. And we don't know what next fall is going to look like, or honestly when we're going to return to school this spring, if we return to school this spring. And so we're facing a unique challenge in that the educators on staff are driven to continue to innovate and reach out to students. It's their most important thing they do, is to inspire students to love science. And we're finding that it takes a lot more time to do that in a virtual setting. It takes a lot more time to create, a 10 or 15 minute video. I mean, it can take days to do this. versus having a 2-hour class come and do a field trip. And so what we need help with is finding funding opportunities, finding people who are willing to sponsor students and classrooms and camps to get as many kids as we possibly can to come back out to site once it's safe to do so again, to do sponsorships for our students, and also to help us buy the equipment we need to make more effective videos. We have a couple of older donated video cameras, and we'd like to upgrade to things that will allow us to do things that will get students really excited. More opportunities to have something that's waterproof. We can go right into, what a spawning group of salmon look like, or down into our macro table so that they can look at, what are macroinvertebrates doing this time of year? Just finding ways where we can get kids excited from home. And so what we're hoping is that through the support of the neighborhoods that surround Columbia Springs, that you may be able to help us fund purchasing some of that equipment, or be willing to sponsor a camp so that we can get as many students as we can once it's safe to do so again. So a statistic for our students is that 60% of them are at or below the poverty level, which is a pretty staggering number. And so when we do a camp, often it's for students who have parents who have the ability to take them to and pay for a camp session. And we'd like to start offering as many camps as we can to students who don't have that privilege. And so we would really like to see if you could sponsor that, or a portion of it. So we're looking for about, for the entirety of the year, somewhere between $5,000 and $10,000 that we could spread out from various organizations. So not all of it from one, but to pay for these kinds of innovations. The other thing that we're working on, because we have the opportunity in a weird way, because we don't have these on-site programs, is we've been doing site restoration. So we're doing a lot more weed removal, so invasive species like blackberry and ivy, and then as those are removed, we're replanting with native species. And so coming in the springtime, pending state mandates, we will be doing a lot more volunteer events. So we could also really use some help with volunteering.
So I have a question for you really quick, Catherine.
Of course.
Regarding the camps, are these full day camps? Are they half camps? Are they 5-day-a-week camps? Coming from the city of Vancouver and working with camps, I'm just curious how your camps run, especially what you're envisioning right after we kind of, what I guess what you would say, let loose be with the pandemic. So what does it look like for spring if we can do that?
Gosh, that's a really good question. So in the fall, what we did was, or what we've done is after school camps. So that kids can continue to go to school or go to class. We did programming that was from 3 to 5 every day of the week. And so students came, were dropped off by their parents after a very rigorous COVID screening process, and then spent 2 hours doing various activities throughout the week. And we envisioned that if schools are happening in the same way that they are now, we would continue a program like that in the springtime to help supplement that very necessary and needed science that's just not something that's capable in virtual learning.
Okay.
And so, and then in the summer, we're hoping to do full day long camps.
So are these camps staffed by paid staff, or are they staffed with volunteers? And do you guys handle the inclusion population?
Yes, so those are great questions. We have full-time staff that pay for that. We also have part-time educators, although with what's been happening on, they're on furlough until we can go back to being normal, so to speak. I like your phrase, let loose. And then we also have roughly 17 volunteers that are really invested in being stewards and sort of docents to the site and helping us continue those education pieces and help so that we can have as many students as we possibly can. We have a wide variety.
Are the schools only from Vancouver, or do you bring them in like from Camas and Washougal?
That's a good question. So predominantly it's been the Vancouver and I think Battleground areas, but we've also included Camas before, and I think Washougal. I think for the most part, it's been funding driven through the funding from the school districts themselves. But because we're in this strange predicament, we've had the opportunity to step back and say, how can we do more and serve more of the, the Southwest Washington community that really needs a space like this?
Mm-hmm.
And we try our hardest to reach out to students that are underserved, and when we do special programming. So one of the things that we did for our autumn and summer camps is we reached out to districts who had identified students that were needing the most attention, and we're able to figure out how to connect with them and offer scholarships if they were interested and are able to get to the site.
Mm-hmm. Do you have any gardening education?
We did once have a gardening program, but I think, gosh, I want to say that ended a few years after Maureen started her executive director period. So maybe 3 years ago is when that last of it we did. We had a master composter program, which I think was pretty robust for a while.
Oh, okay.
I would love to see that come back. And I have a vision of adding the element of naturescaping so that people can understand how to plant better native plants for themselves and in and around our yards so that we can be more conservation minded for water conservation as we beautify our landscapes in our yards.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll put my contact info in the chat like Corporal Donaldson did. And if you have any questions for me about anything that we're doing, please feel free to let me know. Either now if you have them, or if you think of them later, feel free to email or call me. I'll put both my phone numbers up.
Can we go to the Columbia Springs website and find any links to be able to donate any of the sponsorship money, say, or even like say I have a GoPro that I never use that's waterproof. I mean, is there a place I can go to just take that or to donate?
Yes, so I will send out, I'll put the link in before I jump off, where you can go in. We have a donate page, so you're welcome to make a monetary donation if you want to. We also have a volunteer page, so you can reach out to our volunteer coordinator, April, if you're interested in doing that part of joining into Columbia Springs. And then we have a wish list that I can send it. Serena, can I send it to you in an email so you can send it out to everybody?
Yes.
Okay, so I'll do that.
We post on Nextdoor as well, and then we also have our Columbia River has our own list of emails from our neighborhood people, so we can do that with all of our contacts. And obviously, they have that with Old Evergreen as well.
Thank you.
Happy to do that.
Great. So I really appreciate the opportunity to speak with all of you. It's good to get to know our neighbors. I think it'd be really wonderful when we can finally get together again. I'd love to go for walks with some of you and get to know you a little better and hear more about why you might know or like Columbia Springs.
Well, we're really happy to have you in our neck of the woods. And I know that we both share that with both organizations because you're here. We don't have any parks down here. So we consider you a great friend. And so many of us would benefit, for walking on the highway can be a little treacherous. So having a safe place to go is just great for us.
Mm-hmm. And all of our trails are open. The only area that's off limits right now is the hatchery because Department of Fish and Wildlife has a much stricter set of COVID rules to keep their hatchery staff safe.
Right.
Hey, Serena, real quick, this is Ryan.
Hi.
I just wanted to echo what Katherine said about the facility. My daughter, last year when she was in the 3rd grade, her class had the opportunity to come and do a day camp at the site. And then they also did the Salmon in the Classroom project as well. Such an amazing site. We got to walk the trails. We got to see the hatchery. This, of course, was all pre-pandemic. Very, very amazing instructors there that are teaching the kids about, basically, like you said, to be scientists for a day. It stuck with my daughter to the point where we now have 2 2 fish tanks here in the home, probably 30 to 35 fish and counting because they're having babies. But she loves them. She gets up every morning and goes and sees what they're doing, and it really stuck with her. So I really appreciate what the facility is doing with the kids in our community.
Yeah, my kids when they were little, we let a frog go free there, you know, that was in our yard. So I think that everybody having that opportunity to have such a beautiful site is really a gift for all of us. And even people that are not really, that live down here, right? Just a destination location.
If you follow us on Facebook, we have a really lovely video right now of one of our education staff reading to our fingerling salmon who are going to be released tomorrow. So if you haven't checked that out and you have small children or you enjoy hearing children's stories, I encourage you to look at it. It's beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Catherine.
Yes, thank you.
So I'm going to say thank you very much, Catherine. By the way, my little